But our subject, family, is this great battle in the sky. Yeah. Why such a subject matter? Because all throughout the world of religion and scholarship, there is this great anticipation of a major conflict between good and evil. That's just putting it in its simplest terms. All your scriptures, all your prophecies, all of your major faith traditions speak of a time when this huge conflict between God and Satan would take place that would ultimately result in physical war. It is psychological and spiritual war too, but even it will translate into a physical manifestation of that war between God and Satan. You call it the War of Armageddon. You call it the judgment. You call it all of these things, but it seems as though most of us are not ready to face reality and look at it for what it is. But all of the scriptures foretell of God's coming to enact judgment and retribution, particularly against the people, the satanic people, that have held his people in bondage. These are the conditions that warrant God's coming. This is what all the scriptures talk about. Yes, sir. Why your preachers don't preach it like that, I don't know.
Mr. Borland, in your testimony, you described witnessing large triangular craft while stationed at Langley Air Force Base in 2012. Can you explain what you observed in terms of size, behavior, and why you're confident it was not conventional technology?
Great question, ma'am. So on the base, I lived in the barracks. There was a little smoke pit outside. I was there on the telephone and looking across to the flight line, and I see a white light pop up and stop about 100 feet in the air. I thought it was a weather balloon. I've seen tests from there before, weeknight, normal thing, not surprising. I actually finished my cigarette and I began walking up towards the flight line. There is a track, and because I was on 3 months of night work, I would walk the track at night when we were weather down. And as I began walking towards the light, towards the flight line and the track, the light then flies across the base, across the flight line, and as it flies to me, a triangle manifests around the light. I can't tell you if it's active camouflage. I can't tell you if it appeared around the light, but I can tell you that it was a white light, and then it was a triangle. It stopped about 100 feet in front of me and approximately 100 feet above me. My telephone got extremely hot, completely froze, dead. I remember how thick it was. It was between 1 to 2 stories thick, equilateral triangle. I could never see the top of it, and the edges were 90 degrees. There were 4 lights in total, 1 light on each corner, and a larger light in the center, 2 to 3 times the size of the corner lights. But what was really odd was the outside. The best way to describe it is like looking at a James Webb telescope picture where you have the colors and then the black background. So the craft itself was this black metallic flake paint, but on top of the craft was this gold, lava, plasma, some type of fluid going over and around the craft. I'm under this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then the center light flashes 2 to 3 times, no sound, immediately shoots up to commercial jet level minimum, in my opinion, and I immediately feel static electricity all over my body, and then I smell the smell of after a thunderstorm or lightning storm, that really strong summer thunderstorm smell. Gets up to flight level. I'm trying to get my phone reset, and I can only see the center light at this point. If I didn't actually see it take off, I would have thought it was a star. And then it hovers up there, and it begins to slowly move due east out over the Atlantic Ocean. I finally got my phone reset. The entire thing was about, from the time I saw the light pop up near the hangar until it took off out over the ocean, was about 15 minutes.
And following up to that question, after you disclosed this information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General, you were subject to phishing attempts and job blacklisting. How widespread do you think this is across the intelligence community for those who raise concerns regarding UAP programs?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think prior to David Grush and people beginning this process of bringing people into awareness of the reality of these programs and certain things people have witnessed, probably extremely widespread. I think today there's still an issue, but because people are able to come before you and people are speaking out, I think it has been somewhat less. I would hope, though, that people would, because if this goes back into closed doors, this is going to get really ugly.
There is war happening in Middle East, right? But middle of the war, there is a UFO sightings has been captured 100%. Okay, this is not synthetic. Iranians were trying and failing down to take down the UAPs or so-called orbs right now. We have the footage and this force field technology on display has been captured. But the crazy question everybody has is that why the US has been unavailable to do anything yet. Look at this. There is a orb. You can clearly see these guys are shooting that thing on and on. It looks like a movie, right? Now, nothing happens to the orb and it keeps on glowing bright like a morning sun, and that thing slowly moves away. Nothing happens. So there. People over there are calling that something odd flying in the sky. Everybody's eyes were on that particular glowing UFO right above them. They are all in panic right now because this can be the end of the world as well. At that particular moment, everybody were talking the same stuff, and that looks like the craziest thing they have ever even seen. Now, don't take it wrong that there is a different type of UFO. No, this is the only orb video from Iran which is going viral everywhere. Now, middle of the war, why is this over there? And that is one of the biggest conspiracies ever yet. Many are saying that it could bring the way worst catastrophe ever known to mankind. That's why everybody over there are watching that thing. This is spotted by literally everybody, right? And let's not forget, the soldiers, the government is trying to attack that. They're trying to shoot it down. It's impossible. The bullets are passing by, and they don't have proper jet over there right now just to go and explore that thing. Now, why is that over there? Is this the hands of the aliens, or is it some higher authorities just watching over us?
Things keeping us bogged down. There's something taking place well above our heads. That is the battle in the sky. So the masses of the people have no idea as to what we're talking about right now. Some of you seem shocked as hell. You done came to visit the mosque for the first time. You're like, what the hell these people are talking about? Man, I thought I was going to go and hear a nice khutbah, and, you know, they were going to, man, they over here talking about some damn spaceships and stuff. No, it's just real, fam. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it very plain, and this is what, see, it's over our heads because those in power are well aware as to the time. They are well aware of the prophecies, not from a religious standpoint like most of us would look at it, but they know throughout history that there has always been a time when God would intervene, and they know what they have done to us. They understand the condition that we've been through with over 400 years of slavery and servitude and oppression, and they knew God is going to intervene. This is why Thomas Jefferson, during slavery, said, what's the word? He said, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, and his justice cannot sleep forever. So the founding fathers, who were enlightened men, by the way, they knew something of these prophecies. These were Shriners and Freemasons and whatnot. They know something about who you are. They know something about who this Hiram is, and you, the black man, who is the builder, but who have been put to sleep because you've been hit in the head by these ruffians, Jubilee, Jubilo, and Jubilum, and taken off to a northwest and buried in a shallow grave. are people who were once the master builders of the world and civilizations who are now rendered in a dead-like state. But according to those secret societies, there's only somebody, a special person with the master grip who can raise this dead man out of his grave. I know who that person is. We call him Master Farid Muhammad, with the master grip that can raise this black man out of his mental and spiritual gift.
Wow.